Hey guys, tonight we're diving into a world that smells, let's just say, earthy. You're standing in a cramped medieval cottage, the air thick with smoke, sweat, and the faint tang of vinegar. There's no plumbing, no soap as you know it, and the idea of a hot shower, that's fantasy-level luxury. You're a woman in the Middle Ages, and hygiene isn't a daily ritual, it's a battlefield. You probably won't survive this era with your modern standards intact. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where you're tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You bathe once a month, if you're lucky, and even then, it's not the kind of soak you dream about. First, you need firewood. That means someone, probably you, is hauling damp logs from the woods, hoping they'll burn. Then you need water, which doesn't flow from a tap, but must be lugged from a well, a stream, or a rain barrel. Heating it takes hours. Privacy? Forget it. You're either in a shared household or a drafty bathhouse where modesty is a luxury. When the stars align and you do manage a bath, it's more of a strategic scrub than a relaxing soak. You lower yourself into a wooden tub that smells faintly of mildew and last week's stew. The water's lukewarm at best, and you're not alone. Lice, fleas, and the occasional mouse might join you. You scrub with a cloth dipped in herbal water, focusing on your armpits, feet, and groin. Those are the danger zones. The rest? You let the steam do its work. Historians still argue whether medieval people truly feared water or simply lacked access. Some sources suggest that bathing was seen as dangerous, opening the pores to illness. Others point to the sheer impracticality. Heating water was labor-intensive, and bathhouses were often associated with sin and scandal. For women, especially, the act of bathing carried moral weight. Too much cleanliness could be suspicious. You weren't supposed to smell like roses, you were supposed to smell like virtue. And then there's the bathhouse culture. In some towns, public bathhouses existed, but they were often co-ed and, let's be honest, not just for bathing. You might find yourself next to a merchant, a monk, or a madam. The lines between hygiene and hedonism blurred quickly. Noble women avoided these places, preferring private tubs, if they could afford them. For everyone else, it was a balancing act between cleanliness and reputation. You learn to adapt. You bathe less, but you wipe more. You rely on herbal infusions, lavender, rosemary, sage, to mask odor and soothe the skin. You heat small amounts of water and use cloths to target specific areas. It's not glamorous, but it's effective. And you do it quietly, without complaint, because in this world, survival means mastering discomfort. There's a fringe theory that some women bathed more frequently than records suggest, especially in warmer climates or among certain religious communities. But the evidence is patchy, and most agree that full-body bathing was rare. Instead, you develop a rhythm. Wipe, brush, scent, repeat. You learn which herbs help with rashes, which oils soothe cracked skin, and which cloths absorb best. It's a science passed down through whispers and observation. And let's not forget the bath itself. That wooden tub, it's shared. Your siblings use it, your parents use it, and if you're a servant, your mistress uses it first. You clean it with ash and vinegar, but the residue lingers. You sit in water that's been reused, reheated, and repurposed. It's not about luxury, it's about necessity. Still, there's a strange dignity in it. You prepare your bath with care, choosing herbs that remind you of summer fields or your grandmother's kitchen. You light a candle, not for ambiance, but to see in the dim room. You scrub your skin until it tingles, and for a moment you feel human. Not clean, exactly, but cared for. And then it's over. You dry off with a rough cloth, dress in layers, and return to your chores. The scent of rosemary clings to your skin, mingling with sweat and smoke. You're not pristine, but you're presentable. And in this world, that's enough.
You wake before dawn, the air damp and sour with yesterday's sweat. There's no bath in sight, and you won't see one for weeks. But you do have your cloths, your lifeline. You reach for the bundle tucked beneath your straw mattress. Strips of linen, some stained, some stiff, all soaked in vinegar and herbs the night before. This is your daily ritual. You wipe, not wash. You start with your armpits. The cloth is cool, slightly abrasive, and smells faintly of thyme. You scrub until the skin tingles, then move to your feet, which are perpetually caked in dust and grime. Your groin comes last, handled with care and silence. You don't speak of this part. No one does. But you know the consequences of neglect: rashes, infections, whispers. This isn't a full cleanse. It's triage. You target the areas most likely to betray you with odor. The rest of your body? It waits. You might wipe your neck if you're seeing someone important today, or your hands if you've been working with animals. But water is precious, and cloths are limited. You ration your hygiene like food. Historians still debate how widespread this cloth wiping practice was. Some argue it was common among all classes. Others believe it was a luxury of the semi-affluent. What's clear is that it was practical. Heating water daily was unrealistic, and full-body washing was rare. Cloths soaked in vinegar, wine, or herbal infusions offered a middle ground, cleansing without immersion. You make your own mixtures. Vinegar is the base, sharp and cleansing. You add lavender for scent, sage for its antibacterial properties, and sometimes a pinch of salt. If you're lucky, you have access to rose water, but that's usually reserved for noble women. You heat the mixture over a fire, dip your cloths, and let them cool. The result is a damp, fragrant tool that feels almost luxurious until you remember it's your only option. There's a fringe belief that some women used urine in their cleansing rituals, citing its ammonia content. It's not widely accepted, but it's not entirely dismissed either. You've heard whispers of it, passed down from older women with knowing eyes. You don't ask questions, you just nod and file it away. Your cloths are reused. You rinse them in cold water, wring them out, and hang them near the hearth. They dry stiff and scratchy, but they're yours. You don't have a drawer full of fresh towels. You have 5 cloths, each with a purpose. One for your face, one for your feet, one for your groin, one for your hands, and one for emergencies, like unexpected guests or a visit to the priest. You keep them hidden. Hygiene is private, almost shameful. You don't discuss your wiping routine with friends. You don't compare cloths or swap recipes. You learn by watching your mother, your older sister, your grandmother. You mimic their movements, their mixtures, their silence. And yet, there's pride in it. You know your body. You know which herbs soothe your skin, which cloths absorb best, which days require extra effort. You develop a rhythm, a ritual. You wipe, you rinse, you scent. It's not glamorous, but it's yours. Sometimes you add a touch of perfume, if you have it, not for vanity, but for survival. You live in close quarters, and odor is social currency. Smelling fresh means you're clean, respectable, trustworthy. Smelling foul means you're lazy, sinful, diseased. You do what you can to stay on the right side of that line. You finish your routine and dress quickly. Your undergarments are rough linen designed to absorb sweat and protect your outer clothes. You layer them carefully, knowing they'll bear the brunt of your body's rebellion. You tuck a scented cloth into your bodice, close to your heart. It's your secret weapon, a burst of lavender when the day gets too long. And then you step outside, into a world that doesn't care how clean you feel. You carry the scent of vinegar and herbs, the memory of cold cloth against warm skin, the quiet dignity of a woman who wipes instead of washes. You're not pristine, but you're prepared.
Your hair is a crown of tangles, oil, and superstition. You haven't washed it in weeks, maybe months. Not because you're lazy, but because wet hair is dangerous. Everyone says so. It invites chills, fevers, even madness. You've seen women fall ill after bathing their heads, and you're not about to risk it. So you brush, you oil, you scent. You do everything but wash. You sit near the hearth where the light is soft and the warmth helps loosen the knots. Your comb is carved from bone, smooth and worn from years of use. You drag it through your hair slowly, wincing as it catches. You've added a few drops of rosemary oil to the bristles, not for shine, but to mask the smell. Your scalp itches, your strands cling together, but you keep brushing. It's a ritual, almost meditative. Historians still argue whether medieval women truly feared wet hair or simply lacked the means to dry it safely. Some suggest it was tied to humoral theory, the belief that excess moisture disrupted the body's balance. Others point to practical concerns. Drying long hair in a cold, damp cottage could take days, and in winter, forget it. You'd be inviting pneumonia. You've heard fringe tales of women drying their hair by standing near smoke vents or wrapping their heads in warm bread dough. You've never tried it, but the image lingers. Someone with a loaf on her head, desperate for dryness. You stick to the basics: brushing, oiling, braiding. Braiding is key. It keeps your hair neat, contained, and less prone to tangling. You twist it into a tight plait, securing it with a strip of cloth. If you're noble, maybe you have ribbons. If you're not, you make do. The braid serves another purpose. It hides the grime. No one can see how oily your scalp is if it's tucked away. You sometimes powder your hair, not with talc, but with crushed herbs, lavender, sage, even dried rose petals. You rub them into your scalp, hoping they'll absorb some of the oil and leave a pleasant scent. It's not perfect, but it helps, and it feels like care. Your brush is a prized possession. You clean it regularly, picking out strands and soaking it in vinegar. You don't share it. Hair is intimate, almost sacred. You've seen women cry over lost combs, fight over stolen oils. It's not vanity, it's survival. A clean scalp means fewer lice, fewer infections, fewer whispers. You've had lice before. Everyone has. You treat them with vinegar and smoke, combing obsessively, and sleeping with your head wrapped in cloth. It's miserable, but manageable. You learn to spot the signs early: itching, crawling, shame. You act fast, because once the lice spread, they're hard to contain. There's no shampoo.
You've never heard the word. You use soapwort if you're lucky, or a mixture of ash and water if you're desperate. It stings, it smells, but it strips the oil. You rinse with cold water, then wrap your head in a cloth and pray for sun. Drying takes hours, sometimes days. You avoid it unless absolutely necessary. You've seen noblewomen with perfumed hair, styled by maids who spend hours weaving ribbons and braiding strands. You envy them, but you also pity them. Their hair is a performance. Yours is a tool. It keeps you warm, hides your scalp, and absorbs the scent of your herbs. It's not pretty, but it's powerful. You finish brushing and feel a small sense of triumph. Your scalp tingles, your braid is tight, your cloth is scented. You're not clean, but you're cared for. And in this world, that's enough.
You smell like thyme and smoke, and that's the goal. You haven't bathed, your hair hasn't seen water in weeks, and your clothes are absorbing more than they're repelling. But you've mastered the art of masking. You reach for your pouch of herbs, tucked discreetly into your bodice, and press it to your chest. The scent is faint, but comforting, a whisper of freshness in a world that rarely offers it. You've learned which herbs work best. Rosemary is sharp and clean. Lavender is soothing. Sage is earthy. You crush them between your fingers, releasing their oils, then rub them onto your skin, behind your ears, under your arms, along your collarbone. It's not perfume, it's camouflage. Historians still argue whether medieval women used scent primarily for hygiene or for spiritual protection. Some sources suggest that strong smells were believed to ward off disease, especially during plagues. Others point to the practical use, covering body odor in crowded, unventilated spaces. You don't care about the debate. You care about not smelling like a compost heap. You've heard fringe tales of women smoking their garments, literally hanging them over burning herbs to infuse the fabric with scent. You've tried it once, nearly set your shift on fire, and decided it's best left to the brave. Instead, you tuck scented cloths into your sleeves, your bodice, your undergarments. They warm against your skin and release their fragrance slowly, like a secret. You also use smoke in other ways. When you cook, you let the herbs burn a little longer, letting the scent cling to your clothes. When you sit by the hearth, you toss in a sprig of mint or basil. It's not just for flavor, it's for survival. You live in a world where odor equals judgment. Smelling fresh means you're clean, respectable, maybe even virtuous. Smelling foul means you're lazy, sinful, diseased. You've seen noblewomen carry pomanders, small balls filled with spices and herbs, worn on chains or tucked into sleeves. You don't have one, but you've made your own version, a pouch of dried lavender wrapped in linen. You squeeze it when you're nervous, when you're tired, when you need to remember that you're more than your sweat. Your clothes absorb everything. You wear layers not for warmth, but for protection. The inner garments soak up sweat and odor, sparing the outer ones. You wash them when you can, but it's rare. Water is precious, soap is expensive, and drying takes days. So you scent them instead. You rub herbs into the fabric, hang them near smoke, pray for wind. There's a strange dignity in it. You don't smell clean, but you smell intentional. You've chosen your herbs, prepared your cloths, smoked your garments. You've done what you can with what you have, and that effort matters. You've also learned to read scent. You know when someone hasn't wiped in days, when their cloths are sour, when their hair is fermenting. You don't judge unless they're noble. Then you raise an eyebrow. Because if you, with your limited resources in cramped cottage, can manage a hint of lavender, they have no excuse. You finish your routine and feel a small sense of pride. You smell like rosemary and smoke, like someone who cares. You step outside, and the wind catches your sleeve, releasing a puff of thyme. Someone nearby wrinkles their nose, then nods. You've passed the test. You're not clean, but you're clever. And in this world, that's enough.
You dress in layers, not for fashion, but for survival. Your undergarments are rough linen, scratchy against the skin, but they serve a purpose. They absorb sweat, trap odor, and shield your outer clothes from the worst of your body's rebellion. You've got one camise, maybe two if you're lucky. They're stained, patched, and stiff from repeated vinegar rinses, but they're yours, and they're working overtime. Your outer dress is wool, heavy and coarse. It hasn't been washed in months. You brush it down with a stiff broom, maybe beat it against the wall if you're feeling ambitious. Washing wool is a nightmare. It shrinks, warps, and takes forever to dry. So you protect it with layers. Your camise catches the sweat, your apron catches the grime, and your overdress stays presentable. Mostly. Historians still argue whether medieval clothing was designed with hygiene in mind or simply adapted to it. Some suggest that layering was a conscious strategy to manage sweat and odor. Others believe it was more about warmth and modesty, with hygiene as a side effect. You don't care about the theory. You care about not smelling like a barn. You've heard fringe tales of women sewing herbs into their hems, tiny sachets of lavender or sage stitched into the folds of their skirts. You've tried it once, and it worked until the sachet burst and left you smelling like a salad. Now you stick to tucking scented cloths into your bodice, where they warm against your skin and release their fragrance slowly. Your clothes are your armor. They shield you from dirt, judgment, and the elements. You wear them strategically, choosing fabrics that breathe, colors that hide stains, and cuts that allow airflow. You've learned which combinations work best: linen under wool, apron over camise, shawl for scent control. It's not style, it's science. You wash your undergarments when you can. You soak them in vinegar water, scrub them with ash, rinse them in the stream. They never come out white, but they come out better. You hang them near the hearth where they dry stiff and smoky. You fold them carefully, store them in a chest, and rotate them like prized possessions. Your outer garments? They get spot cleaned. You dab at stains with herbal water, brush off dust, air them out in the sun. You don't have a wardrobe full of options. You have two dresses, one for work, one for feast days. You protect them like relics. You've seen noble women with silk shifts and embroidered gowns tended by maids who wash and scent them daily. You envy them, but you also know their clothes are fragile. One wrong wash and the silk is ruined. Your wool dress may be coarse, but it's resilient. It survives. You also know how to read clothes. You can tell who's clean, who's struggling, who's pretending.
A stiff camise means vinegar. A faded apron means frequent washing. A scented shawl means someone cares. You notice these things. Everyone does. Because in a world without soap, clothes speak louder than words. You finish dressing and feel the weight of your layers. They're heavy, warm, and slightly damp from yesterday's sweat, but they're doing their job. You smell faintly of lavender, your camise is absorbing the worst, and your overdress looks decent. You're not pristine, but you're presentable. You step outside, and the wind catches your skirt, lifting the scent of herbs. Someone nearby nods. You've passed the test. Again. You're not clean, but you're covered. And in this world, that's enough.
You feel it before you see it. A slow, sticky warmth between your legs. Your moon time has arrived. There's no warning, no calendar, no app. Just the familiar ache in your back, the heaviness in your belly, and the quiet dread of managing it all with cloth and silence. You reach for your stash, folded linen squares, stiff from repeated use and vinegar rinses. They're not soft, they're not absorbent, but they're all you have. You fold one into a thick pad, tuck it into your undergarments, and pray it holds. There's no elastic, no wings, no adhesive, just friction and hope. You don't talk about this. No one does. Menstrual hygiene is a private war, fought in silence. You learned the routine from your mother, who learned it from hers. There are no books, no diagrams, no advice columns, just whispered warnings and quiet demonstrations. Historians still argue whether medieval women used belts or ties to hold their cloths in place. Some sources mention linen bands, others suggest simple layering. You've tried both. The belt chafes, the layers shift. You settle for a tight chemise and careful walking. You wash the cloths in secret. You soak them in cold water, scrub them with ash or vinegar, rinse them in the stream. You hang them behind the hearth, hidden from view. If someone sees them, they don't speak. If someone asks, you lie. Just washing rags, you say. And they nod, because they know. You've heard fringe tales of women burying their cloths after use, believing the blood held power or danger. You've never done it, but the idea lingers. Blood is taboo, mysterious, sacred. You treat it with caution, even fear. You feel the cramps deepen. There's no medicine, no hot water bottle, no chocolate. You chew on dried chamomile, sip weak herbal tea, and lie down when you can. But life doesn't stop. You still cook, clean, tend animals. You still smile, nod, pretend. Your cloths leak. Of course they do. You change them often, but not often enough. You feel the dampness, the stickiness, the shame. You walk carefully, sit cautiously, avoid eye contact. You pray the stains don't show. You pray no one notices.
You've seen noble women with servants who handle everything, washing, folding, even applying the cloths. You envy them, but you also pity them. Their dignity depends on silence. Yours depends on resilience. You sometimes add herbs to your cloths. Lavender for scent, sage for healing, mint for freshness. It helps, a little. You've tried soaking them in wine, but it's wasteful. You stick to vinegar. It's sharp, cleansing, and familiar. You finish your routine and dress slowly. Your chemise is tight, your cloth is in place, your scent is masked. You feel heavy, tired, and vaguely unclean. But you're functional, and in this world, that's enough. You step outside, and the wind lifts your skirt. You walk carefully, avoiding sudden movements. Someone nearby glances at you, then looks away. You've passed the test again. You're not clean, but you're coping. And in this world, that's everything.
You don't learn hygiene from books. There are no pamphlets, no scrolls, no helpful diagrams. You learn by watching, quietly, carefully, without asking too many questions. Your mother wipes herself with vinegar cloths. Your older sister brushes her hair with rosemary oil. Your grandmother mutters about the dangers of cold water and the virtues of sage. You absorb it all like steam rising from a pot. There's no formal instruction. No one sits you down and says, "Here's how to clean yourself." You're expected to know, or at least to pretend you do. You mimic what you see, adapt what you can, and invent the rest. Hygiene is a private ritual, passed down through gestures and glances. Historians still argue whether this oral tradition was consistent across regions. Some claim hygiene practices varied wildly from village to village, shaped by local herbs and beliefs. Others suggest a shared core of routines, wiping, brushing, scenting, that transcended geography. You suspect both are true. You've heard of women in the north using pine needles, while those in the south favor citrus peels. You use what grows nearby. You've heard fringe tales of women learning hygiene from midwives or healers, women who traveled, who knew things, who whispered secrets. You've met one once. She smelled like smoke and mint, and she taught you how to make a salve for cracked skin. You never saw her again, but you remember the recipe. You keep your knowledge close. You don't share it freely. Hygiene is intimate, almost sacred. You might trade herb tips with a friend, but you don't discuss wiping routines or menstrual cloths. That's too personal, too risky. You don't want to be judged, mocked, misunderstood. You teach your younger sister the same way you were taught, through example. You let her watch you brush your hair, scent your cloths, scrub your feet. You don't explain, you just do. And she learns.
You've developed your own rituals. You wipe with sage on feast days, lavender on market days, mint when you're feeling low. You brush your hair in silence, always near the hearth. You scent your undergarments before bed, hoping the fragrance will linger through the night. These routines aren't written down, but they're etched into your bones. You've seen noble women with maids who handle everything, washing, brushing, scenting. You envy them, but you also know they're disconnected. They don't know which herbs soothe a rash, which cloths absorb best, which routines matter. You do, and that knowledge is power. You sometimes wonder what it would be like to have a guide, a scroll, a book, a teacher. But you also know that wouldn't change the reality. You'd still be wiping with vinegar cloths, brushing with rosemary oil, scenting your skirts with thyme. The knowledge might be clearer, but the tools would be the same. You finish your routine and feel a quiet pride. You've learned, adapted, survived. You know your body, your herbs, your cloths. You're not clean, but you're competent, and in this world, that's everything. You step outside and the wind lifts your hair. Someone nearby glances at you, then nods. You've passed the test again. You're not clean, but you're wise. And in this world, that's enough.
You don't do it all alone. Behind your daily rituals, there's another pair of hands, quiet, skilled, and mostly invisible. Your maid, your servant, your helper. She doesn't speak much, but she knows your body better than anyone. She wipes your back, scrubs your feet, washes your underthings. She sees the parts of you no one else does, and she never flinches. She arrives before dawn, carrying a basin of warm herbal water. She's already boiled it, strained it, cooled it just enough. She sets it down without a word and begins. You lift your arms, and she wipes your armpits with a cloth soaked in sage and vinegar. You sit, and she scrubs your feet, removing the grime of yesterday's labor. You lie back slightly, and she dabs your neck, your chest, your groin, always with discretion, always with care. Historians still argue whether servants were trained in hygiene or simply learned through repetition. Some suggest noble households had formal routines passed down from head maids. Others believe it was improvisation, servants adapting to their mistress's needs. You suspect it's both. Your maid knows your rhythms, your preferences, your moods. She doesn't ask, she just does. You've heard fringe tales of servants using their own herbs, their own cloths, even their own scenting rituals. You've noticed the faint smell of mint on your maid's hands, the way she folds your cloths with a sprig of lavender tucked inside. You don't question it, you appreciate it. She doesn't speak during the routine. Hygiene is silent, sacred. You don't thank her, but you nod. She doesn't expect praise. She expects consistency. You give her that. She also handles your laundry. She scrubs your undergarments with ash and vinegar, rinses them in the stream, and hangs them near the hearth. She folds them carefully, stores them in your chest, rotates them like relics. You've seen her fingers, cracked, red,
raw. You've offered her balm once. She refused. "It's my work," she said, and you understood. She brushes your hair too. She stands behind you, comb in hand, and works through the tangles. She adds rosemary oil, braids your strands, tucks in a scented cloth. She doesn't pull, doesn't rush. She knows your scalp, your texture, your tolerance. You've fallen asleep during her brushing more than once. She prepares your scenting cloths. She crushes herbs, soaks linen, dries them near the fire. She tucks them into your bodice, your sleeves, your undergarments. She knows which scents you prefer: lavender for calm, mint for energy, sage for strength. She never mixes them up. She's seen your menstrual cloths. She's washed them, folded them, stored them. She's never commented, never judged. She treats them like any other linen. You're grateful for that. You've seen noblewomen treat their maids poorly, barking orders, criticizing technique, ignoring effort. You don't. You know what she does. You know what it costs. You respect her. You sometimes wonder what she does for herself, how she wipes, scents, scrubs. You've never asked. It feels too personal, too invasive. But you hope she has her own rituals, her own herbs, her own dignity. You finish your routine and feel a quiet gratitude. You're not clean, but you're cared for. And in this world, that's everything. You step outside and the wind lifts your skirt. Someone nearby glances at you, then nods. You've passed the test. Again. You're not clean, but you're supported. And in this world, that's enough.
Your breath is complicated. You haven't brushed your teeth with anything resembling toothpaste. You don't own a toothbrush, but you do have twigs, thin, flexible, frayed at the ends. You chew them until they soften, then rub them along your teeth, hoping to scrape away the grime of yesterday's meals. You choose mint twigs when you can. They taste sharp, clean, almost refreshing. If mint isn't available, you settle for hazel or birch. You chew slowly, methodically, until the twig splits into bristles. Then you scrub front teeth, back teeth, tongue. It's not perfect, but it's better than nothing. Historians still argue whether oral hygiene was a widespread concern or a luxury of the elite. Some suggest that most people simply accepted bad breath as normal. Others point to herbal remedies, salt rubs, and chewing sticks as evidence of care. You know one thing for sure. You don't want to smell like a rotting turnip when speaking to the priest. You've heard fringe tales of women rinsing their mouths with wine or vinegar, believing it killed germs. You've tried it once. It burned. You coughed. But your mouth felt cleaner. You've also heard of rubbing teeth with crushed sage or charcoal. You've done both. Sage tastes better. You keep a small pouch of salt and herbs near your bed. Each morning, you dip your twig into the mixture and scrub. You spit into the hearth, rinse with a splash of water, and breathe deeply. Your breath still carries a hint of onion, but it's masked by mint and sage. You call that a win. Your teeth aren't white. They're yellowed, slightly crooked, and worn. But they're yours. You've seen worse: blackened stumps, missing molars, swollen gums. You brush to avoid that. You brush to stay functional. You've also learned to manage your breath socially. You chew parsley after meals, suck on cloves during long conversations, and avoid garlic before church. You've seen noble women carry scented cloths to breathe through. You don't have one, but you've made your own. Lavender wrapped in linen, tucked into your sleeve. You know which foods cause trouble: onions, garlic, fish. You eat them anyway, but you plan ahead. You brush longer, chew more herbs, speak less. You've learned to smile with your mouth closed, to laugh softly, to turn your head when whispering. You've seen servants tasked with brushing their mistress's teeth, dipping cloths in wine, scrubbing gently, scenting the mouth with rose water. You do it yourself. You trust your own hands. You've also learned to read breath. You know when someone hasn't brushed, when their herbs are stale, when their mouth is fermenting. You don't judge unless they're noble. Then you raise an eyebrow. Because if you, with your twigs and salt, can manage minty breath, they have no excuse. You finish your routine and feel a small sense of triumph. Your mouth tastes of sage, your breath is passable, and your teeth are intact. You're not pristine, but you're presentable. You step outside, and the wind catches your hair. Someone nearby speaks to you, then smiles. You've passed the test. Again. You're not clean, but you're fresh enough. And in this world, that's everything.
You clean between your legs with silence. There's no soap, no running water, no guidance. Just a cloth, a bowl of herbal infusion, and the quiet understanding that this part of your body is both vital and forbidden. You crouch near the hearth, where the light is dim and the warmth helps. You dip the cloth into warm water steeped with sage and thyme, then gently wipe, front to back, careful not to linger. You don't talk about this. No one does. Intimate hygiene is cloaked in taboo. You learned the routine by watching your mother, who never explained, only demonstrated. You understood the importance without words. You understood the shame, too. Historians still argue whether medieval women practiced intimate hygiene regularly or only during illness and menstruation. Some sources suggest daily wiping with herbal cloths. Others claim it was rare, reserved for special occasions. You know your own rhythm. You wipe every morning, sometimes again at night. It's not about cleanliness, it's about comfort, dignity, survival. You've heard fringe tales of women using garlic-infused water to prevent infection. You've tried it once. The sting was memorable. You prefer sage, lavender, and a touch of vinegar. It's gentler, and the scent lingers just enough to mask the mustiness. You keep your cloths hidden.
They're folded neatly, stored in a small wooden box beneath your bed. You wash them in secret, away from prying eyes. You soak them in vinegar, scrub them with ash, rinse them in the stream. You dry them near the hearth behind a curtain. If someone sees them, they don't ask. If someone asks, you lie. Just cleaning rags, you say, and they nod because they know.
You've seen noble women with maids who handle everything, wiping, washing, scenting. You do it yourself. You trust your own hands. You know your body, your needs, your limits. You've also learned to manage scent. You tuck a sprig of lavender into your undergarments, rub mint oil along your thighs, brush your skin with rosemary. It's not perfume, it's protection. You live in close quarters, and odor is social currency. You've had infections before. Everyone has. You treat them with herbal salves, warm compresses, and silence. You don't tell anyone. You don't seek help. You endure. You adapt. You've also learned to read discomfort. You know when something's wrong, when the itching starts, when the soreness lingers, when the cloths feel different. You act fast. You change your herbs, adjust your routine, rest more. You don't wait for it to worsen. You finish your routine and feel a quiet sense of relief. You're not clean, but you're cared for. And in this world, that's everything. You dress slowly, layering your undergarments, tucking in your scented cloth, adjusting your chemise. You walk carefully, sit cautiously, avoid sudden movements. Someone nearby glances at you, then looks away. You've passed the test. Again. You're not clean, but you're attentive. And in this world, that's enough.
You wash where you can, when you can. There's no bathroom, no sink, no privacy. Just a corner of your cottage, a bucket of water, and a cloth. You crouch low, shielding yourself from view, and begin your routine. It's not a bath. It's a negotiation with space, time, and modesty. Your wash area is makeshift. A wooden stool, a cracked basin, a bundle of herbs. You heat water over the hearth, mix in vinegar or wine, and let it cool just enough to avoid scalding. You dip your cloth, wring it out, and wipe. Face, neck, armpits, feet. The rest waits for another day. Historians still argue whether medieval homes had designated wash areas or simply adapted corners for the task. Some suggest wealthier households had wooden screens or curtained nooks. Others believe most women washed outdoors, behind hedges or near streams. You've done both. Indoors when it's cold, outdoors when it's safe. You've heard fringe tales of women washing in rain barrels, stripping quickly, scrubbing fast, hoping no one walks by. You've tried it once. The water was freezing, the barrel slimy, but the rush of freshness was unforgettable. You still think about it when wiping with a cloth feels especially futile. You prefer the hearth corner. It's warm, dim, and familiar. You know how the light falls, how the floor creaks, how the steam rises. You've memorized the rhythm. Heat, mix, wipe, rinse. You've trained your body to accept partial cleanliness as victory. You wash your feet thoroughly. They carry you through mud, manure, and market stalls. You scrub the soles, the toes, the cracks. You dry them with a rough cloth, then rub in mint oil. It tingles, masks odor, and feels like care. You wash your face gently. You dip a cloth in lavender water. Press it to your cheeks, your forehead, your chin. You avoid your eyes. They sting easily. You pat dry, then brush your hair. It's not a spa day. It's survival. You wash your hands obsessively. Before meals, after chores, before prayer. You scrub with ash, rinse with vinegar, scent with rosemary. You've seen what dirty hands can do: spread illness, invite judgment, betray neglect. You keep yours clean. You've also learned to wash discreetly. You angle your body away from the door. Keep your movements small, your sounds quiet. You don't want to be seen. Hygiene is private, almost shameful. You don't discuss it, you just do it. You've seen noblewomen with dedicated washrooms, stone basins, scented towels, silver pitchers. You envy them, but you also know they're watched. Every wipe, every rinse, every scent is observed, judged, recorded. You prefer your corner. You've also washed outdoors, behind a hedge, near a stream, under moonlight. You strip quickly, scrub fast, dress faster. You felt the thrill of cold water on hot skin, the panic of footsteps nearby, the relief of solitude. You don't do it often, but you remember it vividly. You finish your routine and feel a quiet sense of accomplishment. You're not clean, but you're refreshed. And in this world, that's everything. You dress slowly, layering your clothes, tucking in your scented cloth, adjusting your braid. You step outside, and the wind lifts your skirt. Someone nearby glances at you, then nods. You've passed the test. Again. You're not clean, but you're resourceful. And in this world, that's enough. Winter arrives like a slap, cold, wet, relentless. Your water freezes overnight, your cloths stiffen near the hearth, and the idea of washing becomes a cruel joke. You wake to frost on the inside of your window, your breath visible in the air, and your skin dry and cracked from the chill. Hygiene doesn't stop, but it slows. You adapt. You heat water more carefully now. Firewood is scarce, and every log counts. You ration warmth like food, choosing which days deserve a basin of herbal water. You skip wiping some mornings, focusing only on your face and hands. Your feet stay wrapped in wool, your armpits untouched. You tell yourself it's temporary. Historians still argue whether seasonal hygiene was a conscious adjustment or simply forced by circumstance. Some suggest women developed winter-specific routines, using oils instead of water, brushing instead of wiping. Others believe hygiene simply declined until spring. You know the truth lies somewhere in between. You do less, but you do it smarter. You've heard fringe tales of women using snow to cleanse their skin, rubbing it on their cheeks, their hands, even their feet. You've tried it once. It burned, numbed, and left you red-faced, but for a moment you felt clean. You still remember that moment. You switch to oils. You rub rosemary oil into your scalp, sage oil onto your feet, lavender oil along your neck. It doesn't cleanse, but it soothes. It masks odor, softens skin, and feels like care. You warm the oil near the fire, dip your fingers and massage slowly. It's not a bath, but it's something. You also rely more on scent. You tuck extra herbs into your bodice, your sleeves, your undergarments. You burn mint near the hearth, hang lavender bundles from the rafters, crush sage into your apron. Your cottage smells like a forest. You smell like effort. Your cloths dry slower now. You hang them near the fire, rotate them often, pray they don't mildew. You've lost a few to dampness, stiff, sour, unusable. You mourn them quietly and stitch new ones from scraps. You wear more layers, wool over linen, shawl over chemise, apron over everything. Your clothes trap heat, absorb sweat, and shield you from the cold. You wash them less, scent them more, brush them daily. You've learned which fabrics breathe, which ones stink, which ones survive. You've seen noble women retreat to warmer chambers tended by maids with heated basins and scented towels. You envy them, but you also know they're trapped indoors. You move freely, even in the cold. You scrub your feet near the fire, wipe your face with warm cloths, scent your undergarments with mint. You adapt. You've also learned to read winter skin. Cracked hands mean ash scrubbing. Red cheeks mean snow washing. Dry scalp means oil. You adjust your routine daily, responding to your body's signals. You don't have a guide. You have instinct. You finish your routine and feel a quiet resilience. You're not clean, but you're surviving. And in this world, that's everything. You dress slowly, layering your clothes, tucking in your scented cloth, adjusting your braid. You step outside, and the wind bites your cheeks. Someone nearby glances at you, then nods. You've passed the test. Again. You're not clean, but you're winter-proof. And in this world, that's enough.
You pack for travel like you're preparing for war. Not with weapons, but with cloths, herbs, and vinegar. You know the road will be dusty, the inns filthy, the streams unreliable. You won't bathe. You won't wash your clothes. You'll wipe, scent, and endure. Hygiene on the move is a test of creativity and grit. Your travel pouch is small but strategic. 5 cloths, 2 for wiping, 1 for scenting, 1 for emergencies, 1 for your face. A vial of vinegar, a bundle of dried lavender, a sprig of mint. You wrap them tightly, tuck them into your satchel, and pray they last the journey.
Historians still argue whether medieval women prioritized hygiene while traveling or simply accepted filth as part of the experience. Some suggest noble women brought servants and supplies. Others believe most women relied on local streams and roadside herbs. You know the truth. You do what you can, when you can, with what you have. You've heard fringe tales of women scenting their horses, rubbing mint on the saddle, lavender on the reins, to mask the smell of sweat and manure. You've tried it once. Your horse smelled better than you. You considered switching places. You wipe in secret, behind trees, inside wagons, crouched near hedges. You dip your cloth in vinegar, scrub your armpits, your feet, your groin. You dry quickly, dress faster, and move on. You don't linger. You don't explain. You scent obsessively. You tuck herbs into your bodice, your sleeves, your undergarments. You crush mint between your fingers, rub lavender on your neck, burn sage near your campfire. You smell like a traveling apothecary. You call that success. You brush your hair with a travel comb, smaller, lighter, slightly bent. You add rosemary oil, braid tightly, tuck in a scented cloth. You don't wash. You don't risk wet hair on the road. You adapt. You clean your teeth with twigs. You chew mint, rub salt, rinse with wine if you're lucky. You spit into the dirt, wipe your mouth, and smile with caution. You've learned to speak softly, laugh quietly, breathe through your nose. You wash your hands when you can, a stream, a puddle, a rain barrel. You scrub with ash, rinse with vinegar, dry with your apron. You've seen what dirty hands can do: spread illness, invite judgment, betray neglect. You keep yours clean. You've also learned to read roadside herbs. You know which ones soothe, which ones scent, which ones cleanse. You gather as you go: sage from the forest, mint from the roadside, lavender from a passing garden. You don't ask, you harvest quietly. You've seen noble women travel with trunks of linens, bottles of perfume, servants with basins. You envy them, but you also know they're burdened. You move light, fast, free. You wipe with cloths, scent with herbs, brush with twigs. You adapt. You finish your routine and feel a quiet triumph. You're not clean, but you're prepared. And in this world, that's everything. You mount your horse, adjust your satchel, and ride into the wind. Someone nearby glances at you, then nods. You've passed the test. Again. You're not clean, but you're road ready. And in this world, that's enough.
You've just given birth. The room smells of blood, sweat, and smoke. Your body aches in places you didn't know could ache. You're leaking, trembling, and barely able to sit upright. But hygiene doesn't wait. You reach for the cloths, stiff, stained, soaked in wine and ash. You clean yourself, slowly, tenderly, like patching a torn garment. There's no midwife here, just your mother, your sister, maybe a neighbor. They know what to do, but they don't speak. They heat water, steep herbs, wring cloth. They wipe your thighs, your belly, your breasts. They change the linens beneath you, rinse the blood from your feet, brush your hair. It's care without ceremony. Historians still argue whether postpartum hygiene was ritualized or improvised. Some sources describe formal cleansing rites, herbal baths, scented oils, protective prayers. Others suggest women simply did what they could with what they had. You know the truth. It's survival. You clean to prevent infection, to reclaim your body, to feel human again. You've heard fringe tales of women using wine to cleanse their wounds, believing its sharpness would kill sickness. You've tried it. It stung, but it worked. You still remember the burn, the relief, the silence. You wipe gently. Your groin is raw, your thighs bruised, your belly soft. You dip a cloth in warm sage water, press it to your skin, breathe through the pain. You don't cry, you don't speak, you just clean. You change your cloths often. Blood soaks through quickly, and you have few spares. You rinse them in cold water, scrub with ash, hang them near the hearth. They dry slowly, stiffly, but they're better than nothing. You scent yourself more now. Lavender on your neck, mint on your wrists, rosemary in your hair. Not for others, for you. You need to feel like yourself again, even if just for a moment. You brush your hair with trembling hands. You braid it loosely, tuck in a scented cloth, and rest. You've earned it. You've survived. You've seen noble women tended by teams, maids, midwives, healers. You envy them, but you also know their recovery is public. Yours is private, sacred, yours alone. You've also learned to read postpartum signs. Fever means infection, swelling means trouble, odor means danger. You act fast. You change herbs, adjust routines, rest more. You don't wait. You finish your routine and feel a quiet strength. You're not clean, but you're healing. And in this world, that's everything. You dress slowly, layering your clothes, tucking in your scented cloth, adjusting your braid. You step outside and the wind lifts your skirt. Someone nearby glances at you, then nods. You've passed the test. Again. You're not clean, but you're recovering. And in this world, that's enough. You've just given birth. The room smells of blood, sweat, and smoke. Your body aches in places you didn't know could ache. You're leaking, trembling, and barely able to sit upright. But hygiene doesn't wait. You reach for the cloths, stiff, stained, soaked in wine and ash. You clean yourself, slowly, tenderly, like patching a torn garment. There's no midwife here, just your mother, your sister, maybe a neighbor. They know what to do, but they don't speak. They heat water, steep herbs, wring cloth. They wipe your thighs, your belly, your breasts. They change the linens beneath you, rinse the blood from your feet, brush your hair. It's care without ceremony. Historians still argue whether postpartum hygiene was ritualized or improvised. Some sources describe formal cleansing rites, herbal baths, scented oils, protective prayers. Others suggest women simply did what they could with what they had. You know the truth. It's survival. You clean to prevent infection, to reclaim your body, to feel human again. You've heard fringe tales of women using wine to cleanse their wounds, believing its sharpness would kill sickness. You've tried it. It stung, but it worked. You still remember the burn, the relief, the silence. You wipe gently. Your groin is raw, your thighs bruised, your belly soft. You dip a cloth in warm sage water, press it to your skin, breathe through the pain. You don't cry, you don't speak, you just clean. You change your cloths often. Blood soaks through quickly, and you have few spares. You rinse them in cold water, scrub with ash, hang them near the hearth. They dry slowly, stiffly, but they're better than nothing. You scent yourself more now. Lavender on your neck, mint on your wrists, rosemary in your hair. Not for others, for you. You need to feel like yourself again, even if just for a moment. You brush your hair with trembling hands. You braid it loosely, tuck in a scented cloth, and rest. You've earned it. You've survived. You've seen noble women tended by teams, maids, midwives, healers. You envy them, but you also know their recovery is public. Yours is private, sacred, yours alone. You've also learned to read postpartum signs. Fever means infection, swelling means trouble, odor means danger. You act fast. You change herbs, adjust routines, rest more. You don't wait. You finish your routine and feel a quiet strength. You're not clean, but you're healing. And in this world, that's everything. You dress slowly, layering your clothes, tucking in your scented cloth, adjusting your braid. You step outside and the wind lifts your skirt. Someone nearby glances at you, then nods. You've passed the test. Again. You're not clean, but you're recovering. And in this world, that's enough.
So now, as the fire dims and the herbs settle into the folds of your dress, you sit quietly, letting the day's rituals fade into memory. The vinegar scent still clings to your fingers, the lavender tucked into your bodice warms with your breath, and the ache in your knees reminds you of every cloth you've wrung, every basin you've filled, every moment you've chosen care over convenience. You've lived through seasons of scarcity, of silence, of slow adaptation. You've wiped instead of washed, brushed instead of bathed, scented instead of scrubbed. And through it all, you've held on to a quiet pride, a sense that even in the absence of luxury, you've preserved something sacred. Not cleanliness, exactly, but dignity. The wind outside rustles the herbs hanging from the rafters. You close your eyes and imagine the stream you once washed in, the hearth you once crouched beside, the mint you once crushed between your fingers. These memories are soft now, like worn linen. They comfort you. You're not pristine, you never were, but you've been consistent, thoughtful, resilient. You've passed the test again and again, not because you were perfect, but because you cared. So rest now. Let the rosemary lull you, the lavender soothe you, the sage remind you of your strength. You've done enough. You are enough. Good night, traveler of time. May your dreams be scented with thyme, and your sleep as deep as a winter basin.